This is the online lecture to accompany Chapter 6 in your textbook. I highly recommend that you read Chapter 6 because there are many important ideas, theories, concepts, and examples that I simply don't have time to address during this lecture. You can stop, pause, and replay this recording as often as you wish. Okay, let's talk about audience analysis. Good speakers are what is called audience-centered. Now that means that they understand that the primary purpose of public speaking is to gain a desired response from their listeners, and so they need to keep the audience foremost in mind during every part of speech preparation and speech delivery. Now, they keep 3 questions in mind during this time. To whom am I speaking? What do I want that audience to know, believe, or possibly even do as a result of my speech? And what is the most effective way to compose and present my speech to accomplish that aim? Now, good speakers seek to create a bond, what communication scholars call identification, with listeners by emphasizing the things that we have in common values, common goals, and common experiences. So it's really important for you as a speaker to approach your classmates as a real audience. It's not just about your grade in this class, it is actually about relating to the audience. Because the classroom seems like an artificial speaking situation, it can be very easy for you to lose sight of your classmates as an authentic audience, but they are. And the best speakers take their audience seriously and treat their classmates as worthy of their best efforts. Good speakers also understand the psychology of audiences. Now, since your task as a speaker is to make the audience want to pay attention to your message, you need to understand a little bit about audience psychology. The perception of your audience is always selected. Everything a speaker says is filtered through each individual listener's frame of reference. Now, what is a frame of reference? Well, it's everything that a person has experienced, thought, everything that has happened to them throughout their entire lives up until the point of your speech. So that's what they're going to be taking in the information you're giving them and filtering through everything that they are and have experienced up to that point. Which means that what you say and what they hear may not be exactly the same thing, because every speech contains 2 messages, and that's the one sent by the speaker and the one that's received by the audience. Now, this happens to me, and I see this in action all the time as a teacher. I think I'm saying something, and in my mind I'm being very, very clear, and yet there often people in the audience don't quite catch on to what I'm saying, and it's because they're listening through their own frame of reference that is completely different from mine. Also, there's another thing you need to understand about audiences. They are what's called egocentric. Now, that sounds bad, but really it isn't. It's a very human quality. Egocentrism means that you pay closest attention to messages that affect you directly. So we all have a tendency to be most concerned with our own values, our own beliefs, our own well-being. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to understand that audiences have that quality and relate to them on the basis of what you think they need to hear in order to listen to you. So listeners are going to be judging a speech on the basis of what they already know and believe, their frame of reference. And you as a speaker have to take care to relate your message to an audience's existing knowledge and beliefs. The first stage of audience analysis is examining what are called demographic traits of the audience and how they might affect the audience's reception of your speech. Demographic traits are things that are qualities that a particular audience has, that based on those qualities you can make some determinations about what they need to hear from you, how you need to approach them. There are different demographic things that affect the way that people relate to particular topics. For instance, age. Very few things affect a person's outlook more than his or her age. For instance, let's say your topic is Social Security. Now, you're going to approach an audience where most of the people are younger very differently from an audience where most of the people are older. They're going to relate to that topic very, very differently. Gender can have a strong impact on how an audience responds to a speech. Some things may be naturally more interesting to an audience where your main gender is female as opposed to an audience where the main gender is male. Religion, sexual orientation, racial, ethnic, cultural background, group membership, even things like occupation, economic position, education, even where somebody lives. These things all play a part in how your audience is going to respond to you. Because I will tell you right now that community college audiences are almost always extremely diverse. Another word for that is heterogeneous. But what that means is that you probably have people of all age ranges, all different sexual orientations, different genders, different religions, different backgrounds, different economic status. All those people are going to be members of your audience. One thing you need to avoid doing, even though demographic audience analysis can be a useful tool, you really need to use it properly. So when you're looking at your audience, it's very essential to avoid stereotyping. Demographic audience analysis might lead you to say, well, there are more men than women in this group, and men are just not interested in taking care of their skin, so I can't do a speech about how to take care of your skin because there are more guys in the classroom than girls. Nothing could be further from the truth. Do not assume things about your audience based on looking at them demographically, because really all members of a particular group are not necessarily alike. You can make generalizations, but do not assume things about your audience because they may or may not be the case. What I like to say is just assume that you have all different types of people in your audience, so you need to do whatever is possible to relate to all these different types of people. This is the end of part 1 of the online lecture for chapter 6. Close this file and open part 2.